You keep saying things. All right. Welcome to episode 7 of the Brownballs podcast with your host, Killzone.
Deep throat.
Jackass.
And Deputy Vice.
But-
Today we're going to be talking about a type of thinking. So from the book Freakonomics by Stephen Lewitt and Stephen J. Dubner. It's a great book. Would recommend. Some of us have read, some of us haven't. To those of you who haven't, here's a quick breakdown of the type of thinking. It basically looks at factors that might not seem related and then break them into how they would link and cause an economic change. For example, they used the seminal United States case of Roe and Wade, which was to legalize abortion, which was kind of cool, and they linked that with how crime stats in the US dropped in 2000s. A quick breakdown is basically like, they said people who would look for abortions tend to be not ready to be parents and therefore cannot give the same love and attention to a child. That child is more likely to commit crime. All those parents who were allowed to have abortions now didn't have those children who weren't brought up in the more crime likely scenario, therefore gun crime stopped. It was quite kind of controversial. There were some studies done into it. Some proved them, some disproved them. It's still kind of a debated issue. But the method of thinking is something that I like. And they're just looking at ways to use incentives, which is the basis of economics, to direct human behavior. Yeah? So that's a really quick summary. Killzone looks as if he might have died.
I was just drinking that beer the whole time you were talking and it was taking too long.
Oh, God, okay. Anyway, I was trying to make it as really brief. It's honestly like a really good book. And today we wanted to talk about gun violence. So Jackass has suggested that we limit it to the US and its use, or rather to make it a bit more academically relevant, and just how we, as a four,
Yeah, so
if
to
we would-
anyone listening, you can take our word as gospel. We know what we're talking about when it comes to gun violence. Not just in America. I mean, we are specialists in American gun violence, but also around the world. So,
Just to make clear, we don't actually commit gun violence or ever have or have any intentions to.
I think we really need
Well-
to clarify this.
for the FBI listening here.
And the CIA and the NSA.
Or the NSA.
All right, so real quick. So one method that people were talking about was more enhanced checks, or my personal favorite, eliminating any form of non-defensible automatic weapon. So that means you cannot sell an AR-15 or any of those machine assault rifles to the common public. So you take it away from-
You're taking away the fun part of it.
But the thing is, the fundamental right to bear arms, the only justification in my mind is to protect yourself and to protect your home. Yeah? Assuming that the invader also has a gun, if both of you had no access to an AR-15, there's no need for one to have an AR-15 over the other.
Yeah, but I think the amount of violence you can do with even just a pistol or like several pistols or whatever is pretty much the same as one AR-15. I don't think there's a huge difference between the two.
Not to mention
In
the
terms
reason
of
people like
slaughtering
having
innocent people.
Sorry. Not to mention that one of the reasons people like having more powerful weapons is in the hope that the other person doesn't have an AR-15 but something less powerful, so you're more likely to kill them.
But that comes in the... So, okay, I'm going to bring Deep Throat into the conversation using law. So one of the big... so for UK listeners, you would have remembered the Great Train Robbery, where basically they stole like a £1 million or something stupid like that in 1960. So it's a lot of money.
I thought you were talking about the train robbery at the start of Doom 2.
I'm not talking about an Indian. I'm talking about like a real life event. And basically, in that case, when they
Are you
find
telling
a
me
cop,
Hrithik Roshan isn't actually a master thief?
just hijacking this thing, eh? What a jackass! No, as in, I'm trying to say that from that event when they stole the money, they didn't use, or allegedly did not use any real force. So it wasn't really a robbery; it was a theft. But because they were deemed to be such a violent crime, or such a, oh my god, it's a crazy crime, they put the maximum limits as punishment for that crime.
Which was?
which was like life imprisonment or two lives imprisonment kind of thing.
Wait,
So you basically
wasn't the death penalty around in the 60s then? It was abolished around 60s though, 69, is it?
yeah, but it wasn't for white collar crime, not for white
Oh, right.
people. Sorry, just to clarify. Like, I was like, oh no.
Well, don't play the race card, man.
No,
Don't play the race card.
But essentially, one argument that was made is that because now, even if you don't use force, you get the maximum penalty.
Yep.
There's no disincentive for me not to use force. I'm more likely to get my money by using like a gun than if I didn't.
Mhm.
Because even if I use the gun,
Is this
what's
a
the worst
UK
thing that can
example
happen?
in law, though?
yeah, this is a UK example. As in, this is just an example. The term I'm trying to get is incentives meet the means. So the fact that I have a gun and you have a gun, we'd always be trying to see who has the best gun. But if none of us can ever get, say, the automatic machine rifles, then you eliminate that part of the game. So now we just
But
have
you
the
can
best
still kill
possible
someone
pistol.
just as well with a pistol as you can with a thing. If you shoot them with a pistol, they'll
No,
still
here's
die.
the thing. Here's the thing. though.
It takes
Pistols
you
are less-
longer.
Not only that, but pistols tend to be lower powered caliber weapons. I mean, they're lower calibers compared
You
to
can
machine
get
guns.
a
And the
Magnum.
Yes,
But
for
it doesn't
four.
eliminate the possibility of the person dying. The
Not to
result is still
mention,
the same.
pistols
The
hold
outcome's still the same.
not to mention pistols hold significantly less rounds than a handgun.
I mean,
Not
Thank you, Jackass.
necessarily.
there was this saying that small crime does not mean no crime. I mean, even if it's a smaller scale weapon.
Yeah, but then
No, as in-
the thing is, Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes time to reach the certain level. You have to start with small. If you just suddenly, you can't. No one can overhaul a system overnight. It takes smaller steps to make a bigger
So
journey.
they're right.
I-
You do want to take away all of their guns.
Yes.
I cannot believe Jackass, you have seriously, I kind of love you right now in today's conversation.
kind of?
Usually you're a dick, right? But today you're on point. You're thinking the way I am. We're connecting. I like it. So when I was talking about the same thing, it's basically step by step. The ultimate aim should be that we completely take away arms
What?
from civilians.
What's that
Because-
gonna do?
There's less likelihood of you shooting someone in a rage. The access to the weapon, like for example, crimes of passion, they're so much easier to catch when they're because if it's knives and bats and stuff, you can tell what it was.
Oh,
You can find the
I'd
person
rather
easier.
be
That's
killed
usually-
by shooting than be slowly killed by someone stabbing me and then me bleeding out and then bludgeoning my face.
Hey,
and...
hey. Just because someone shoots you doesn't mean you're not going to bleed out slowly.
I mean,
No,
if he
as-
aims for the brain, you're
You
good
can
as
stab
dead, aren't
someone
you?
in the brain.
Yeah, if someone puts the jugular, right? This is now we can talk about the hypotheticals of dying. Right?
Exactly.
You're just much less likely to be killed in that particular scenario.
But you will die though if you
Yeah, but
bleed
the
out.
thing is,
No.
so they've
No,
actually
no.
done.
And I mean,
If you get
Just-
shot in, say, I don't know, your guts, or compared to if your slow is threat, you're probably gonna die faster with the knife wound because it cuts your main arteries.
right.
Okay, can I?
Well, I don't have
reverse-
any medical knowledge, but I'm guessing.
Can I also ask this? Okay, again, a caveat: we're not experts, but we sort of are, according to Killtown. What about the PTSD involved on
Right.
the side of the attacker? So if you look at military history,
Mhm.
when the inventions of guns, as more time goes along, since in more recent time, the fact that you can shoot them from far, there's not that same affinity of I've taken a human life. Whereas when it comes to actual, for example, if you look at 16th century, 17th century reports, when they had muskets and they had to go and stab people with a bayonet, there was a lot of trauma. The fact that you'd have to go near this person and kill them,
Yeah.
Yeah, you
this is
literally.
recorded. It's not as if this never happened in the past.
So you're saying it's easier to kill someone with a gun psychologically?
Yeah,
Yes,
because you don't have the same emotional, or you don't get to see the same emotional reaction on their face as if you're, I don't know, sniping them from 100 meters away.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
this
true.
is like a fringe case of people who otherwise wouldn't kill someone unless they had access to a gun. I feel like if somebody was going to kill someone, they're going to kill someone without a gun or with a gun.
No, but it's
that's-
not.
but
It's
that's
not just about
incentive.
that. It's also about the culture you create. It's by saying that everyone has the right to bear arms and not controlling the way the arms are released into the public.
But they kind of
You-
are. They do.
There's
It depends on the
such
state, obviously.
minor-
But there are
I mean,
checks.
Yeah, there
No,
are
but
checks.
it-
Are you a
but you can
terrorist?
get
No.
around it.
Here, have a gun. I mean,
There's ways to
You
get
can
around
get around
So-
it by buying it off your friend. Yeah.
but
Exactly.
that's the thing. So, for example, like there's a good report by was it Vice or was it Al Jazeera? I can't remember.
Ah.
But they did a report on this, and their crew members were like, "This is bullshit. This is sort of trying to take away our arms, trying to take away this. It's ridiculous." And they were like, "Okay, fine. If you don't believe us here, you go buy a gun, right? You don't do any checks. You use this particular method. Let's see whether you can get a gun." And that crew member was so surprised at how easy it was. They were like, "Well, they definitely need to do more checks. Like I had to go through A, B, C to get my gun, and I'm a law-abiding person." And the problem is, it's not about taking away from the law-abiding citizens. It's taking away from the hands of those who would most likely cause harm.
not
So-
Yeah,
to
but how is
mention-
that benefiting them by taking away the assault rifles and stuff? Why would that help?
As in the number of deaths.
Surely
would-
just more checks is the,
Okay, but
is the solution.
it's also about relating to your times, right? When the Constitution, which the Americans love so much, and which gives them the right to bear arms, it was written in a very different time.
Yeah, I agree that writing it on a piece of
Exactly.
paper 300, 400 years ago doesn't make it.
I mean, the Americans love going
Mean
to war with
anything.
other nations on the basis that their culture is backwards because it's based on some scrolls which were written a long time ago. Well, they're not that different themselves. The only difference being that other people are following religion, they're following a constitution. But at the end of the day,
Jackass.
it's writing on paper.
I think our fictional viewers will agree with me that what you said was out of line, because I feel that the U.S. did what it did because they had a sound reason for it, and
Who are you sucking off in the U.S. Pentagon?
my name is freaking Deep Throat. Get over it. So the thing is,
Look, I'm not
the thing
saying every single war they've gone on was without a reason. But my point is, the Americans love having a go at other people for how their cultures are backwards. I'm not just talking about from a military perspective, even from a cultural perspective. There's a lot of people they don't like. They will have a go at other cultures for how backwards they are because they're following an older culture, but they're doing the same thing. The only difference is they're following a culture, whereas some people might be following a religion. But at the end of the day, it has the same effect. You're following a backward system which no longer which doesn't fit our current society anymore.
So-
Okay, can I just say that is an excellent segue to vegetarianism?
who are you? You're somebody jackass. Holy shit! Am I on the right podcast?
Yeah, I know. It is weird for me too, but Jackass has a lot of valid points that I agree with a lot. I think
I think we
honestly-
should
That's loud.
exchange
That's about
names.
street.
I think we should exchange the names. I don't think Deep Throat suits me anymore, but oh god.
are we gonna give him a pass to change his name? Honestly,
No, I was just kidding. No, I mean, we both, Deputy Vice and Deep Throat, should exchange names, but
no, thank you. I
No,
didn't choose. I
No,
didn't
no,
choose
no,
my
no,
name.
no.
You're the
No
only
one-
one who chose your name.
you're the only one who chose the name. Now you're stuck with it.
Unless it's something that we all deem is worthy of replacing Deep Throat.
Well,
There's
it
not
has
many
to be
I can
something
think of.
deeper. It has to be something deeper.
Brown Panther.
Ooh.
Hell no. You don't
No,
deserve
That's a
it.
good
that
name.
would be giving you status, right? We've all been mocked with our names, except for Killzone. We've all been mocked.
Well, Killzone is really the best out of
No,
all of us.
Killzone's called Killzone because he's always the first one that dies. He's always the Killzone.
Surely
no,
Killzone
it's-
would be the one doing the
Jackass.
killing.
No.
Killzone does killing.
Welcome to the kill.
I mean, all right. Maybe we think about changing our names. Maybe
Now,
we
can
put
we go back to
vegetarianism, like we were saying, it's just a form of culture and it's spreading. And the question is whether it's
cancer.
good or not. It's not. See, that's the thing. I think it's actually a good thing. I'm not a vegetarian, but I think that what they're doing for the planet, what it's doing for in terms of controlling your emotions, being more, healthy and one with nature. I
Controlling
think
your
it's all great.
emotions.
So
sounds
if you
like a
if you
drug.
read certain texts, yeah,
There has been research which says because of the way your body processes meat and the effects it has on you, it is more likely to make you feel like you're low in energy or
like
like,
lethargic.
heavy. Yeah, lethargic is the perfect way to explain it. It has a lethargic effect on you.
Yeah, and that vegetarianism is great, but a lot of the debate around it comes to like, oh yeah, humans we're hunters, we're meant to kill, and you're going like, and we have this canine teeth which is meant to eat meat, and you go, well,
Not really.
not really, because it doesn't really function the same. You can't eat meat straight off the bone.
In
'cause
fact,
it's not-
our bodies are no longer capable of processing raw meat.
yeah, that's one. And two, more importantly, if that was the case, you can't fucking eat sugar because we're not born to eat sugar. Our teeth and body can't process raw sugar. That's why it's refined sugar and all that stuff. So like the sugar as is. So you're just going like, well, so your biological argument is false.
And then you look at the other way. Like if I mean, we're no longer hunters and gatherers, right? Because we learned, we developed, we grew past that, and we adopted a new lifestyle. And the reason we are where we are in the world today is because we are a species capable of learning and growing. So obviously that should apply to more aspects of our life, including our diets.
So we are becoming weaker.
Yeah, so
by
now
not
we've
being
got
able to hunt for food.
we've got we've just like you cultivate the plants and stuff in farming, you cultivate the animals as well.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, the cultivation of animals is the most destructive thing to our planet at the minute.
Yes.
From greenhouse gases produced to areas cleared just for like food for the animals. The amount of
methane. The amount of I think you're about to make the same point. The amount of methane released into the atmosphere, which is very, very destructive greenhouse gas, is far more from the meat industry than say from all the automobiles in the world combined.
Yeah.
Because
like,
methane's like a gas that you would use to burn for energy, whereas.
Yeah, but you don't. Or you just go straight up into the air and messes with.
But it's not the main product of like petrol engines, which is CO2, right?
Yeah, but the amount. The thing is, they said if we cut down meat by a third, is equivalent.
Yeah, I agree. The greenhouse. The greenhouse.
He did it. That was it. That was it.
I was about to make a point about that being vegetarian would make you weaker. At this point, I would just like to say there are plenty of athletes in the world who are not just vegetarian but vegan. And if you want to have an example of having a great physique and being really like what people think of as strong and fit and still being not only vegetarian but vegan, all you need to look at is Chris Hemsworth in Thor Ragnarok.
But you're just saying it as like a look at what he did despite not even eating meat, when obviously meat would be easier.
No, okay, hold on.
In that case, everyone should be the size of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
No. That's not what I'm saying either. I'm just saying it's easier to just eat meat than it is to get along despite not eating meat.
It requires less effort, given the world we live in today.
No, but the thing is also, right, there's actual power and think like the bronze medalist, and I know you guys are going to say, well, he didn't win gold, but the bronze medalist for the heavy lift in the deadlifts was a vegan, and people said, oh, you never win anything, you won't even be able to compete. Not only did he get to the finals of the Olympics.
Serena Williams is vegan.
One of the most successful tennis players of all time. By the way, just for our viewers, just so that I'm not seen as a hypocrite, I do eat meat. I do enjoy eating meat. And during these debates...
But that's hypocrisy, though.
No, as in, I think that's a great way forward, and I'm trying to change my behavior to that effect. But I'm not going to claim holier than thou kind of point of
But
view.
the main argument you guys have made is the greenhouse gas emissions and stuff.
It's bad for the environment.
You don't...
It's bad for your health. It is bad for your health. What you're saying is that
I'll have to look at what this thing you've said about your emotions. I feel like
that's one small part of it. It's
all right.
just
what else is
not...
I think a balanced diet obviously would be the best, right? You still need meat.
No, you need protein. You don't need meat. Meat is a condensed form of protein.
It's easier. Okay. Meat is an easier.
Jackass. I'd just like to point out. Do you use animal-based products?
Such
such as shoes made out of the skin of a crocodile or a couch? No, because the thing is, while vegetarians...
Couch made out of what?
No. Well, because
couch made out of bears.
bear with me. neither vegans nor vegetarians eat meat. Yes, but vegetarians tend to consume dairy products and eggs. Some of them, and also they
Ooh,
use
what about
animal-based
honey? Do you
products.
eat honey?
Exactly.
Do you steal? Do you
Like-
steal from the bees?
You still use animal products.
Okay, first of all, Killzone, let's not get petty.
No, it's not
Yeah.
petty. No. If you're
No,
gonna
as
if you're
in-
gonna
as in-
mention something, I feel
And
we
as
should cover everything. Like,
As for using animal products, yes, I'm not vegan, I'm vegetarian, but I'm lacto over vegetarian, so I don't eat egg. I do drink
Okay.
milk, and I do know that comes with its own problems. But a lot of those problems would be a lot easier to solve if there was no meat industry. Just saying. Secondly,
The cows they use for the milk aren't the ones they kill for
Yeah.
the meat.
you know,
Yeah, but the
Let-
thing is, they
Can you
still
so it's
grow
okay to
so
take the milk
much.
from the cow, but it's
And-
not okay that we eat meat.
okay, first of all,
So if
one
you
of the
can't
reasons-
solve the small thing, how to solve
the
the bigger
reasons-
thing? Just like you said, Rome wasn't built in a day.
one of the reasons there's the cows that we take milk from are treated so badly is because later on they're slaughtered, and because the meat industry takes up so much space, they all have to be like confined to a tiny amount of space. If there was no meat industry and literally acres and acres and acres of land was freed up, then we could let those cows have
No,
more
you'd have
space,
to then
give them
plant
more
enough plants to feed humans, minus the meat.
Yeah, but you don't need that much.
You'd need
You don't the same amount.
for you to get the same amount
no,
of protein
no,
from
no, no,
plants
no,
and stuff. You'd
no,
need
no,
significantly more
okay,
land.
okay.
No,
I just like-
you don't. You actually don't. That's where the
No.
argument
This
goes
is the
false.
thing. There was a study made, I think, last year or maybe a couple of years ago, which showed that we do make huge amounts of vegetables and other stuff, which is then fed to livestock. In fact, the amount of food made to feed livestock is 21 times the amount needed to feed everyone under the poverty line. So we're actually, so like there are nearly 1 billion people in the world who live below the poverty line, and the amount of food it would take to feed all of them every single day, 21 times that amount is fed to livestock.
Is that the? You were talking about how you can't get the same amount of. It's harder to get the same amount of protein, say, from plants or from meat based food. I guess we're all
Yeah.
talking from our asses here now, but can you get that from plants in the same amount of space? Surely you'd need more space, like to get the same protein density,
Yeah,
protein per plant, whatever.
A
No,
bit.
because
the thing is,
you're
we're
the
already wasting so much space, though.
and the thing is, it's not just about the space. It's about like, you can get that same amount. It depends on what you need to use that amount for. So, for example, if you eat a ribeye today, the amount of protein you get from that is massive. Are you converting that protein? If
Yeah,
you're
that's a
not
good
using it or if you're wasting it, then it's the same equivalent as not having that protein in the first place. You could live and continue to be in your existence as is. The amount of protein required for you to continue it's not like massive that
This
For
is
example,
another
you can-
reason why meat is.
chickpeas and something.
Yeah, this is another reason why being a meat eater can sometimes end up being unhealthy because you end up consuming so many extra calories.
Mhm.
And not to mention, like, meat often comes with high fat content.
Yeah, and could I also mention that advertising has made us think meat is the right option? So a lot of the advertisers that you see tend to promote, like if anyone's seen a Carl's Jr. advert, right?
Are those
it
the ones
is-
with the girls?
Yeah, it's highly sexualized. It's highly like, oh yeah, meat, yeah,
It's very
man.
American.
And
Very
it's very
American.
and it's very linked to sort of like, strong man eat meat. That's us as macho men, but it's not really. They've linked it and made it an intrinsic part of you, so that whenever you think of meat, you think of that. And it's the same across the world. So they do it in different ways and forms. So while I'm not saying that advertising is the big danger, it has conditioned us to a level where we feel that meat is required. So if you look at certain ads across the years, when for example, the amount of like sexuality linked with the meat industry hasn't been as allowed, they still link it with family values, housing, comfort. They're like an intrinsic part of human nature, which is excellent from a marketing point of view, but in terms of making it an underlying staple of a generation, I think that's an interesting concept that we need to ensure that we're not passing on to the next one.
And-
I'm sorry for being silent, but I was just googling through some website, and this website is uk.ask meatman.com, and I quote, it says,
Sounds very
researchers.
reliable.
Yeah, but I mean, you can
It's-
cross-check it if otherwise. It says researchers at Oxford University recently followed 35,000 individuals, aged 20 to 89, for a period of 5 years and discovered that vegans and vegetarians are 30% more likely to break a bone than their flesh-eating peers. And a subsequent study made in a Sydney Garvan
I would-
Institute
I
said
would
that
just like
vegetarians
to
had
say,
bones 5% less dense than meat eaters. This
I
could
would
be
just like
attributed
to
to the
say
fact
that,
that many vegetarians and vegans consume very little calcium due to the limitations of their diet.
What?
And
Where do
while-
you get calcium from?
Yeah,
Milk.
Hold on.
calcium.
Where the fuck do you get calcium from?
Milk,
Milk.
and
Which
dairy
which
products.
meat gives you calcium?
Milk. From milk.
Yeah,
Milk.
but that's not meat.
But that's not meat.
It comes from meat.
It comes from a
So it's okay. So it's okay to drink
It's meat.
it's okay to drink the product
That's
of the
what
meat,
deep
but
throat
not
said.
okay to eat the meat itself.
I think
Depending
that's what
on
we
how you-
landed on already, right?
No, I've never said don't eat meat. Like I said from the beginning, I eat meat. What I'm saying is, if all of us who ate meat cut down our meat consumption by 1/5, we would drastically slow down.
Just have one veggie day a week.
Meat-free Mondays or something like that would drastically change. And like Copenhagen does it. So Copenhagen has a meat-free Monday or something like that, where the whole city you cannot find meat or something like that. Something. Is it Malmo? I don't know. I need to go and Google this. But I remember reading about it when we went on holiday, and I was like, these guys have got the right idea. So you can't buy meat on a Monday.
Sometimes I
Just
think
buy twice
sometimes,
as much meat on a Sunday. and then you got
sometimes when we I think I don't remember if it was school or college, but we used to get food like in the canteen, and certain days of the week, once a week, all the food would be vegetarian.
It was the same in home.
You'd be so happy, wouldn't you, jackass?
It didn't happen.
Yes,
all
it's
the
my
time.
day.
It didn't happen every single week consistently. I will admit to that, but still, I mean, that sort of thing makes a huge difference. And going back to what Deep Throat was asking me earlier, I nearly said his name again. But going back to what Deep Throat was saying earlier, yes, as a child, I used to own certain products made of, say, animal skin, like shoes and so on. But as I've like grown up, become an adult, become in charge of my own life, I do my best to avoid them as much as possible. Unfortunately, there are sometimes situations where there are literally either no or practically no available options available just because of the way, just because of the society we live in.
I mean,
I-
you've got to
I
take
think-
you've got to take it with a pinch. Like the actual. Oh, hold on, Deep Throat, you go.
No, go on. Like you say first.
No, it's in, we can't. It's easy to go like. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about as well in this, and which linked to the original topic, on like how the methods of thinking worked. So we went and defended that point of view without looking at what the underlying principle was. So I wasn't saying that everything meat related is bad, that we must completely destroy all these industries, that we must completely destroy, stop eating meat, stop using animal products.
Yeah, I feel like
go.
there's a problem to be solved there in that
Yeah.
there is really high CO2 emissions or whatever from meat. If you can solve
Yeah.
that problem, if you can capture the emissions or you can offset them by doing something else.
Not just
the-
the emissions, the ability to feed
I think
people
we-
and have space to live.
Not to mention the
They're all
inherent
solvable
animal torture.
problems.
Not to
I mean,
mention the
if we could
inherent
stop
animal torture.
deforestation. Yeah.
I mean,
Hold on, I'm gonna go with Jackass, then Deep Throat, then back.
I mean,
to
I was
Ozone.
going not to mention the inherent and quite often neglected problem of animal torture in the meat industry.
Yeah, but that's the same thing with milk, mate.
No. I'm not
As
saying
in-
that's a good thing. I mean, it needs
Yeah.
to be solved across the board.
Yeah. Sorry, Deep Throat. Do you wanna jump in?
I think with regards to the CO2 emission, if we stop deforestation, we protect the environment, we plant more trees, perhaps the CO2 emission might go down. And regarding the meat industry, yes, I acknowledge there's something should be done, but
But
we have to work on it as a community,
you
as a
need to
society. We
ask
have to work
yourself,
on it.
you need to ask yourself why they're cutting down those trees. They're cutting down those trees to create grazing grounds for those animals that we then eat. The biggest reason for deforestation in the world, especially in the third world, is for pasture ground. So it's for those animals to eat and to graze on, but nothing else, or to grow food for the animals to eat. Not even for us to eat.
Instead of feeding the people.
So it's about what we value. And if I like, for
I
example,
guess that is less
housing.
efficient.
Yeah, for me as a young adult, my biggest concern, one of my big concerns, besides finding a job, is having a place to stay that's affordable. And I don't know about you guys, but real estate like prices have gone up a lot. So my brother's having issues in Edinburgh. You know, we have issues if you just look in Manchester or other parts of the UK. There is an issue. That London, right?
Build upwards.
You can't
even
just
Sweden.
build upwards.
just keep building upwards.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. You know,
UK is not very up.
Yeah, it's about heat conservation, some shit like that. I don't know.
I like the
Well,
way he does it. Up.
Well, the thing is, remember, UK doesn't exactly, as much as they'd like to say that they're really great, they don't really align with regulation that much. Just look at the Grenfell incident. So
Yeah,
Hell,
learned
the
their
housing,
lesson. They've
the
learned
average
their lesson.
housing age, average house in the UK is old.
yeah,
It
the
needs
average
to be
house in the UK is old.
So old. It needs to be. It's so out of touch. The housing in the UK is so out of touch with modern standards.
And that's the thing. It's about we need living space. We need areas to grow, and
This
No,
feels like a
no.
Hitler quote.
Lebensraum.
Yeah. Okay, we've gone into fascism and Hitlerness. I'm so sorry. We got here.
I think it's called Nazism.
But like, I would
Not
like to make
Hitler.
a point. Sorry, I would like to make a point about what Kilton was saying earlier about it's so much easier to eat meat, and I agree. We as a species, with the exception of a few groups here and there, whether because of social or cultural, religious reasons, have forever, for as long as we've existed, been meat eaters. But that's not a reason to not bring about change. I mean, linking back to what we were talking about in the last episode with Elon Musk and him shaking up these so old and traditional, well-rooted industries. And initially, people resisted. And even now, there's a lot of change going on, and people are finding it difficult. I mean, we haven't adopted electric cars yet, but it's happening because it's necessary. And yes, it takes time, difficult, but it's good. And sooner or later, people will start catching up on that. But we do need to put in some effort.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right. So now over to Deep Throat for his classic end of episode quote.
All right. So, I mean, I haven't really prepared for this one. So, to my dear fictional listeners, if you are listening, I apologize sincerely. If you hate it, I don't care. If you love it, I still don't care. So here goes. Stop the hate, drop the guns. Spread the love, pick up buns. Have a nice day, everyone.